Ethical dilemmas often arise in everyday situations where competing values are present. This ethical dilemma happened in a voluntary group therapy session. During the session, the group facilitator had stated that participants were not allowed to leave the room once group had begun, and explaining that getting up is distracting to others and are against the rules. Now, while structure and consistency can be important in group settings, this rule raised some concerns because participants were attending voluntarily, and stepping out of the room can be an important form of self-regulation for emotional, physical, and psychological reasons. Additionally, those weren't actually the rules. The rules had stated that you cannot be vaping in group therapy and that you cannot be on your phone while in group therapy. There is nothing in the rules that say you cannot step out for need be if you need to. There has never been any other case where any other group facilitator had a problem with people stepping out. This group facilitator was just misusing his authority power. And the situation created a clear ethical dilemma between maintaining structure and respecting individual autonomy. Although the rule was presented as a neutral, its enforcement introduced an element of control that conflicted with the purpose of being in a therapeutic environment, which is meant to support well-being and psychological safety. The ethical issue was not the existence of the rules themselves, but how rigidly they were applied and how that rigidity affected the participants' autonomy. To help illustrate this dilemma even more, I'm going to briefly show a simplified version of this interaction. I personally called out the group facilitator and that his actions were unethical. However, the total interaction was about 15 minutes, which in my opinion is way too long for a 3-hour group, so I will be shortening for the sake of time. Also, note that this encounter started when someone needed to step out of the room for an unknown reason. You guys know there are rules, right? Once group starts, everyone needs to stay in the room. Getting up can be distracting, and those are the group rules. I understand the need for structure, but this is a voluntary group, and sometimes stepping out helps people regulate. The rules are there to keep everyone focused. Leaving isn't allowed once group begins. Respectfully, I take my job very seriously. I've been to funerals. When you run group, you can do things your way. Respectfully, I will do things different when I run group. And also, I've been to funerals too. However, you don't know what you don't know about people's lives and why they may need to remove themselves. And your reaction, in my opinion, is unethical and it bothers me. This is a group, not a prison. This interaction highlights ethical tension between authority and autonomy. The facilitator's position prioritizes structure and control, while the participant's position prioritizes consent and self-regulation. The imbalance of power complicates the decision-making process when authority is exercised without flexibility, especially in therapeutic environments. Rules can unintentionally shift from being supportive to actually being coercive. And the driver that played the most significant role in the situation was power dynamic. Even without formal consequences, authority figures influence behavior through expectation, tone, and perceived control. And in ethical decision-making, especially in mental health settings, it is important to recognize how this power can impact the participant's sense of safety and choice. Ethical decision-making in similar situations could be improved by strengthening ethical awareness and flexibility. Clear communication about the purpose of the rules, along with reasonable expectations, prioritize well-being. This can help balance structure with compassion. I also recognize my own bias in this situation. I tend to value autonomy and personal responsibility, which may make me more sensitive to rigid rule enforcement. At the same time though, facilitators may have a bias towards order and predictability. So acknowledging these biases in turn will allow for more thoughtful, balanced, ethical reasoning rather than reactive response. Ethical practice requires balancing structure with respect for autonomy to ensure that environments designed to help people don't intentionally undermine the values that they are meant to support.